Welcome to Snetterton for rounds 5 and 6 of the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. Today's action takes place on the 300 configuration, which at almost 3 miles in length is the longest circuit on the calendar. So far this year, the man to beat has been the engineering graduate from Reading, Matt Palmer. The 22-year-old has won all 4 races in his Mark II at Donington and Brands Hatch, but the point system is such that he can't afford to rest on his laurels. Jim Davis is just 7 points adrift in the standings, and he in turn is just a point clear of fellow roadster driver Stuart Nichols. The midfield though is often where the action is at its fiercest, so I caught up with one of the drivers who has found himself embroiled in some frantic action so far this season. So Nigel, tell us how your season has gone so far in the MR2 Championship.
A little bit hit and miss. We've had 2 races now. The first one at Donington I made a mistake and unfortunately took Ben out, which was completely my mistake. The second race wasn't too bad, and then the race at Brands, which were 2 completely different races, one in the wet, which was difficult for everybody. I think we all just managed to make it round. And the first race there was an incident with myself, John and Ben, so that really spoiled the race for the 3 of us really. So, but we're still enjoying it, and I'm going to try and limit the damage for the rest of the season, hopefully.
So what are you hoping for here at Snetterton this weekend?
The aim for the season, because it's only the second season, is to always qualify top 10, and then obviously get a better position from that in the race itself. So a top 5 hopefully would be the ideal. I don't think there's any catching Matt. He's too far away.
Okay, Martin, we're here at Snetterton. Just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the MR2 Championship.
Well, I started first in some kart racing, did that for about a year and a half, and then decided it was time to move up into proper circuit track racing, and was looking for an affordable way to get into it. And then I came across Rogue Motorsport at a motorsport event, and they had a testing day coming up, so I went out to Rockingham, spent a day in the car, really enjoyed it, and then last season was my first season out, so it was a rookie season. I managed to get through that reasonably unscathed. And I just really enjoyed the racing, so I'm back this year and loving every bit of it and starting to move up the grid as well.
Yeah. And this is a car, you mentioned Rogue Motorsport, but they actually run the car for you, don't they?
Absolutely. So this is arrive and drive. So this is where essentially I drive up on the day in my normal road car with my family. They support me at the track, and then I step into the car. The guys do everything for me. So it's a full package where they literally have the pit crew. They'll change the setups. They'll do fueling, tires, everything that's needed. So it takes the pressure off me to really just feed back to them how the car's driving, and then really focus myself on improving my own driving abilities.
32 cars took part in qualifying, and Matt Palmer was the fastest of them. He did a time of 2 minutes 20.95. Next to him on the grid is Jim Davis, who was 4/10 of a second slower than Palmer. Row 2, as you can see, Stuart Nichols and Matt Wallace. Rest of this field coming into position. We're missing today David and Ben Rowe. Ben, who was on the podium last time out at Brands Hatch. Red lights go on, and they go out, and a great start by the 2 front row men. Second row not quite so well away, I don't think. The number 21 car going through in front of us was Phil Hutchins from York. Good start then from Davis as he got in front of Matt Palmer. He's certainly trying to go around the outside. Oh, and that was Rob Wells out of shape, and Matt Wallace, number 72, spinning across in front of us. He qualified well on the second row of the grid, but he's going to be right at the back of the field now. So Jim Davis in the lead, Matt Palmer in second, trying to go around the outside of him. It's Stuart Nichols in third place as they head down to the left-hander at Palmer. That's Shane Mansbridge, the local driver from Norwich, in the number 34 car. Dan Holmes, number 92, you can see going through, and there's that man, Phil Hutchins again, the black number 21 car, as they turn now through the left-hander at Palmer. This takes them on to straight towards Agostini, and Mansbridge there running a little bit wide, or being run a little bit wide there, with Dan Holmes trying to fight for that same piece of tarmac. Now they'll come into the braking area for the left-handed hairpin. Mansbridge still going to be behind Dan Holmes, I think. Let's have a look at the replay of the start though. This is on board with Mick Nichols, who was on 10th on the grid, right in the middle of the field. Tim Heron, number 5, up ahead. The blue car, he started 7th. Now somewhere up ahead we'll be able to see what happened to Matt Wallace in the number 72, the grey machine. He spins, didn't quite see how. Everyone managed to avoid him though, and there's his brother, number 73, Simon Wallace, just ahead. Meanwhile, Martin Farrelly makes his way ahead of Mick Nichols. The 2 of them started on the same row of the grid. Mick much later on the brakes for the Montreal hairpin. And this is the view from Martin Fowley. So he was on the right-hand side of the track. You could see there that Mick Nichols in number 89 did get the better start. So Fowley lost 1, 2, maybe 3 places. Alex Knight and Nigel Ralphson, number 85, both going through there ahead of the Road Motorsport prepared car, and John Wilson as well, number 77. Then all kicked off. Fowley tried to forge his way through on the inside. Matt Wallace at this point had already gone off. So it's Jim Davis that leads the way then. In second place it's Matt Palmer, Stuart Nichols in third. Then quite a big gap back to Rob Wells in fourth position. It looks like Tim Heron is in fifth. Tim, who was well placed in the championship last season, finished in fifth, hence the number 5 on his car for this year. He's just in behind number 45, Rob Wells, the driver from Weymouth then. Then it looks like Mick Nichols is next through, and then possibly Alex Knight in the number 33 car, up from 12th on the grid. So there's Heron then, number 5, in 5th position. Just at the moment the cars turning their way out of the Murray's left-hander and on to the centre straight, the start and finish straight once again, past the pit garages. Already though the top 3 have pulled away, and that moment for Matt Wallace I think has helped them to escape a little bit. Palmer now back in front though, so Palmer has taken the lead of the race away from Jim Davis, but I know Matt has some concerns that at this circuit the Roadsters really will come into their own. Indeed, the lap record is held by a Roadster, by that man Stuart Nichols in fact. He did a 2:21.04 here last year, so it's a circuit that is well suited to the more modern cars that are a little bit less powerful, but they're lighter as well. And so Matt Palmer looking for 5 victories on the trot as his work cut out. Here's Martin Farrelly. With the left-hander. Looks like it might be Sean Traynor that's up ahead. The number 27 car, the 43-year-old from Winchester. Down towards the left-hander at Agostini they will go then. The hairpin dropping down to around about 40 miles an hour here. All of these drivers in MR2s, rear-wheel drive cars of course, whether it's the Mark II or the more modern Roadster. Look, as you can see in the blue Roadster number 89 at the rear of that group, the driver from Hertfordshire, the father of Stuart, who's a bit further up the order. Yellow flags there waving, so there must be a car that's stopped just on the side of the circuit somewhere up towards Brundle. I'm not quite sure who that is at this point. Hopefully that driver, whoever it is, will be able to rejoin the race. But it's Palmer then that leads the way, the driver that has won all 4 rounds of the championship so far. 2 at Donington Park and 2 at Brands Hatch 4 weeks ago. And the top 2 getting away here from Stuart Nichols in 3rd place. But Jim Davis, the driver from Stratford upon Avon, number 11, is certainly making sure that Matt Palmer's got a race on his hands here. 4th place man Wells now getting away from the new 5th place man, which is Mick Nichols, now ahead of number 5 Tim Heron, who's not as well up the championship order as he was last year, because unable to take part in the races at Donington Park, so Brands Hatch was his first event of the season. Tim Heron used to compete in speed events before starting to go racing a couple of years ago in the MR2 Championship. Simon Wallace you can see going through there, the white and green car. Also was Martin Farrelly, the man from Fleet in Hampshire now, but originally from Dublin, the 41-year-old IT service sales manager. Back on board with Mansbridge we go then. This is his local track. He started on row 10 of the grid, goes up the inside of Phil Hutchins there, uses a bit of curb. He's carrying a lot more speed through the corner than was Gary Skip. Is it all going to go wrong at Montreal though? He's late on the brakes, he turns in, has a look to his left to see what's out of the window. Oh, and he's seen that Phil Hutchins in 21 has come right back through at him now on the run down towards Palmer. Mansbridge now turning his way through the left-hander towards Agostini they go. He races the number 34 car, the 32-year-old administrator is also a motocross official as well when he's not racing himself, so very much a motorsport fan. Number 28 there is Chris White from Maidenhead, last year's Rookie of the Season, as back to the lead as we go, and still Matt Palmer having to defend absolutely furiously here from number 11, which is Jim Davis. Stuart Nichols still there in 3rd position. Palmer and Davis have been on the podium in all 4 races so far this year. Davis with 3 seconds and a 3rd place finish. Stuart Nichols has been on the podium 3 times. The other podium finisher, Ben Rowe, sadly not here today at Snetterton. Back towards Murray's they go then. Only about a car length between Palmer and Jim Davis as they come to the end of another lap, and look at this furious pack. Skip's involved and Shane Mansbridge also involved. Is number 58 Mark Bithry as well. The green car is 92 Dan Holmes. So this is a great fight that's going on. It's just outside the top 10 for that sort of mid-teen kind of position, around about 14th, 15th place, that kind of thing. Slap bang in the middle of the field. It's usually where some of the best action is to be found, and it's the 69 car of the slot car racer Gary Skip that's now at the head of this group, with Mark Bithry 58 at the back of it. From Longfield down near Brands Hatch gets alongside Shane Mansbridge now. He will try and forge a way through around the outside into Rich's corner. Mansbridge locks up. That forces Bithry a bit wide, I think, but that speed had to be scrubbed off by Mansbridge, so he tucks back in behind the white car. And there's the third member of the Nichols family, Maxine Nichols, joining her brother Stuart and dad Mick on the grid here at Snetterton this weekend. Round 5 of the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. We're on board with Stuart Nichols in third position here at Snetterton. And look, they're almost overlapping the two leaders up ahead. Jim Davis in the red car on the left-hand side of your picture, now tucking back in behind the race leader, the blue car with the green trim of number 1, Matt Palmer, the reigning champion. But now it is 3 cars for the lead. And look, Stuart Nichols there is gesturing to Jim Davis, and I think he's saying, well, let me through and I'll have a go at him. We'll perhaps work together to try and get past Matt Palmer. And certainly down the long straights here at Snetterton, working together, using the toe effectively, is something that you can do. The two of them are going to go alongside. It looks like Jim Davis has understood that gesture, is going to let Stuart go through, and he will have a go at attacking Matt Palmer. Then see if we can get them both in front of the championship leader. Championship leader only by 7 points, despite 4 wins out of 4, because you get 25 points for a win, but then you get 24 points for second place. And Palmer has had a nearly perfect score. The only point he's dropped was for fastest lap in the opening round of the championship at Donington Park. So Nichols now is up to second position, and if anything, it looks like he's lost a bit of ground here to Palmer, but that could soon change round. Although Palmer was fastest in qualifying, we know Nichols goes off! Nichols has gone off! Well, that plan has gone out of the window very rapidly indeed. It's a rather sheepish looking Stuart Nichols there in third place. Yeah, not quite sure what that's meant to mean, but I think it shows his frustration. Palmer, Davis then in second, and Nichols in third, and if anything, that has handed this race to Matt Palmer. Not quite on a plate, because Jim Davis is not far behind him, but he's certainly made it that little bit easier for the man from Reading now. As we look now at number 29, Martin Farhi. Martin is a man who's going to do a couple of triathlons on the 12th of July for the Jensen Button Trust, so raising money for charity. I know he's been trying to elicit support from some of his fellow competitors here this weekend at Snetterton. On board with Martin Farrelly now. That's Nigel Ralphson going through, who we heard from before this race. Ex-Fiat racer. Heard from both of these drivers, of course, and they're drivers that are well involved in the midfield action, and as Nigel Ralphson so amply demonstrates there by running wide out of Williams and loses a position down the Bentley straight there. Palmer now has pulled away from Jim Davies, so that incident a few moments ago, and it really does look as if it has helped the race leader, and Jim Davis has got it all wrong at Murray's, just as Stuart Nichols did on the previous lap, and that's now allowed Nichols back up into second place. What is it about Murray's and the MR2 Roadsters, because on successive laps Nichols and Davis have both got it wrong, so they've swapped positions again. Meanwhile, Palmer seems to be driving a flawless race here. He's pulling away from the rest of them. Rest of the field making their way through. John Wilson going across the line there. We could see it. Simon Wallace. Here's that Farrelly and Ralphson fight we were watching a moment ago. There's Sean Traynor, number 27. John Wilson has been in the wars, I think, already this weekend. The number 77 car. There's Alex Knight in number 33. Now, he made quite a good start this race and has more or less held on to the position that he got quite early on. Maxine Nichols, well, she's improving with every round of the championship that she takes part in, which is great to see. Climbing up the order in that number 17 striking black and pink roadster, and she's just tracing after number 60 Trevor Cooper there, the ex-Formula 3 and Formula Ford racer. Good to see him enjoying some racing in the MR2 championship this season. The last lap board is out, so is a board advising someone of a penalty for a driving misdemeanour. Let's hope it's not one of the main protagonists up front. Nichols in second as Jim Davis climbing all over the back of him in third place as they go on to their 7th and final lap of the race now. A long old lap here though at Snetterton, so there's still overtaking opportunities for Jim Davis to try and capitalise on in third place. Davis making his way down towards the left-hander at Palmer. There's Gary Skip going across the line, and then this scrap involving Dan Holmes and Shane Mansbridge amongst others. Down towards the right-hander. This scrap is for 15th and 16th positions. Mark Bithry in there as well in number 58. Here's Matt Palmer though, making good his escape now at the front of the field. Nichols and Davis still second and third in that order, both of them having made mistakes during the course of this race. They'll be kicking themselves for letting Palmer get away. Meanwhile, here's Maxine Nichols now. She's caught Trevor Cooper over the course of the last lap, so can she mount a last lap bid on the position? As back to the front, Jim Davis. Well, I wondered if the S's, Brundle and Nelson, might be an opportunity for him to get past Stuart Nichols using the toe down the Bentley Straight, but apparently not. So we're heading into the final few corners of this race now. Stuart Nichols so far this season has had 1 second position at Brands Hatch. It looks like he's going to make it 2 second places now. But also it's going to be 5 wins out of 5 for Matt Palmer in the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. Down to Maris they go. Do both of the roadsters get through there safely? Yes, they do. Looked fairly neat and tidy from both of them that time. The damage though was done on earlier laps. As up to the line goes Matt Palmer. Stuart Nichols flashes his lights. He's happy with second place, and Jim Davis is in third position. Oh, Martin Fowley on the last lap of the race spins at Quorum. Well and truly crossed up. Oh, and now he can't get the car fired up again. All of the time, positions are slipping through his fingertips. There's Shane Mansbridge that's just gone through, so that's how far down the order Martin has gone, almost down to 20th position. I think 19th I think he's going to be over the line. And again, that body language tells a story, doesn't it? Very disappointed in that as he goes over the line. Here are the results then, and a couple of drivers have been excluded for eligibility issues. Those are Sean Trainer, who was 9th, and Dan Holmes, who was 16th, but the win went to Matt Palmer by just under 1 second in the end from Nichols and Davis. Further back, Knight, White, Barber and Simon Wallace completed the top 10. The fastest lap of the race and a new lap record went to Jim Davis at 2 minutes 19.93 seconds. OK, Matt. Many congratulations on, what's that, your 5th win in a row now, but this was probably as hard fought as any of them.
Yeah, I had to work almost as hard as the first race at Donington with Jim right behind me. I know when Jim's behind me it's going to be a tough race. Luckily I was fast enough in certain areas to just about keep in front or overtake when I needed to.
And was that essentially as a result of the sort of different characteristics of the two cars, I guess, to make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the infield section and all the hard braking areas are definitely suited for the Mark III, but at the end of the straights we just about got the legs on them.
You must be delighted though with how it's going, 5 wins in a row now.
Yeah, 5 out of 5 is pretty good. Not as nice a ring to it as 6 out of 6.
Stuart, 2nd position for you. You were watching the first 2 for the first few laps, and then you were able to sort of make a bit of a move.
It was kind of the old story really. I was just watching Jim and Matt go at it and just kind of waiting to pick up the pieces. I know there was an accident very early on that kind of allowed us to kind of get a gap, and I was just having to sit and wait for an opportunity, and it sort of presented itself. I was getting close, but yeah, it was fantastic racing today again.
Absolutely. I think you got up to second, then you had a bit of a mistake yourself down at Murray's.
Yeah, it's we just round Coram we abuse that rear left tyre so much, and you're just pushing hard. Jim's pushing me all the way. We're trying to push Matt. At some point, something's going to give, and it was me at that point. I just had to gather it up because we knew we had a bit of a gap to the rest of the field, so I didn't want to lose any more places, but it made it exciting.
Time for the second race of the day in the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship, with the cars making their way out onto the grid, which is determined by the second fastest time set in qualifying this morning. Once again, it's Palmer and Davis on the front row of the grid. Matt Wallace lines up third. He had a non-finish early on. Stuart Nichols fourth. Mick Nichols and Simon Wallace complete the first three rows of the grid. The lights go out and we are underway, and that's an awful start from Stuart Nichols. Look at the field just flying past him there. He's going to be right at the back before much longer. Well, what a lot of work he's got to do now. Graham Mailings I saw going through on the right hand side of him. Mailing started on row 12, Nichols on row number 2, so he's lost about 20 odd places as a result of that. Stuart Nichols, he's got a heck of a lot of work to do now. It's side by side for the lead of the race between Palmer and Davis. Matt Wallace there in third, Mick Nichols in fourth position. The rest of the field making their way through. There's Stuart Nichols already trying to recover some of that lost ground, and it's Davis that leads. Davis ahead of Matt Palmer, as he was for the early stages of race number 1, is ahead at the beginning of race 2 as well. So Matt Palmer, who always races with Papa Smurf on board as well, he's got his work cut out here. He's trying to get alongside, and Agostini, the hairpin now. Can he get a good run out of the corner? No, it looks like Davis is much better away from that slower corner. Perhaps though that's what you might expect for the more agile Mark III Roadster. Dust being kicked up, I think, by number 85, Nigel Ralphson there. I think there's some fluid down on the circuit as well. I'm not sure if someone's laying that down that's out there on track just at the moment though. Here's Stuart Nichols. Now he's got Dan Holmes behind him. I think that's possibly Alex Knight, who finished inside the top 7 early on, but I don't think he's made such a good start this time. Started a bit further back on the grid as well. He started on row 12, so he didn't have a great qualifying session. There's the number 44 car, no longer driven by Luke Austin now, but by the Oxford driver Wayne Lewis. And look at this Stuart Nichols, well, around the outside of Shane Mansbridge there at Williams and onto the Bentley Straight, and he got a place away. Here though is the race leader. It's number 11, Jim Davis, the man from Stratford, ahead of Matt Palmer then. You can see the livery on the side of Jim Davis's car for the tyre company which supports him in his racing. Palmer then in second place. We're on board with him now. Familiar green mirrors. He's got a pair of matching trainers as well as Matt Palmer to go with the colour of his car. And he comes out of Murray's now, still in second position. There's Simon Wallace, who was up on the third row of the grid. Hopefully we'll see his brother Matt having better fortunes as well in this one. There's 27 Sean Traynor, who was excluded from the results of the earlier race, so hopefully he will be able to get through the race without such penalty this time. There is the 28 car, which is Christian White. 58 is Mark Bithry up ahead. Gary Skip, you can see, with the orange roof on his red car. There's Tim Heron in car number 5. He's got a bit of work to do to catch. I think that's the Mark Barber car that's up ahead of him, as the leaders are already down towards Hamilton for the next lap. So there's Heron just ahead of Bithry and White and Traynor. And I think it's Simon Wallace who didn't get a great start from that promising qualifying position. Stuart Nichols, meanwhile, continuing to find his way through the field. He's just got ahead of Martin Farrelly. Nichols driving over with a great deal of determination here. But it's only an 11 minutes plus 1 lap race that he's got to try and make up these places in. He'll struggle, I think, really pushing on though. You can see him going out over the curb there on the exit of Williams, and I'm sure the marshals will have spotted that. And they'll let the clerk at the course know that they've spotted someone going all 4 wheels, or at least 1 or 2 wheels, off the circuit. So still Davis that leads, Palmer in second, Matthew Wallace third, Mick Nichols fourth. Then it's fifth place for John Wilson at the moment, just ahead of Rob Wells. No Mike Wells here at Snetterton this weekend, I'm afraid to say. As Phil Hutchins there, number 21, has the 33 car of Alex Knight a bit patched up after the earlier race, trying to go through on the inside. 69 Gary Skip gets out of shape a little bit there, he runs wide over the grass. That's another place that Stuart Nichols can make up. He gets that one for free from Gary Skip. Nigel Ralphson pounces as well while he's got the chance. And we've seen a few drivers make mistakes at Morris, and we've emphasised earlier on what a difficult corner that can be. If drivers having to turn and change down through the gears and brake, and then all of a sudden they're confronted with this left-hander. John Wilson there in the 77 car, he was third in the championship last year. A bit further down in the points so far this year, he's fifth. Coming into this weekend's racing, one of the many Hennessy Motorsport prepared cars on the grid. Rob Wells, who is battling with, actually is another such example. Here's the on-board view from Tim Heron. Mark Barber, number 22, is up ahead, the 30-year-old development engineer in his second season of racing. So a change of position there. And down towards the right-hander at Oggy as they go. Christian White it is that has made his way through. And Heron, you can see, already has lost quite a few lengths to Mark Barber up ahead as a result of that. And Mark Bithry and Sean Traynor and the recovering Stuart Nichols are ready to close and take advantage when they can. So 5th and 6th go through shots, 7th is Barber, 8th now is White. In 9th place it's Heron, who locks up a little bit there. And 10th for the moment looks to be the car of number 58, Mark Bithry, as they head through the bomb hole then. This right-hander. Back on board with Heron, White ahead of us as we go through this long right-hander at Coram. Pretty much a constant radius corner. But then, just about there, you need to suddenly turn sharp left at Murray's, the site of the former Russell chicane, as Rob Wells here makes a challenge for 5th position. He draws alongside John Wilson now as they go over the timing line to start one more lap of this race. Wells to the outside as he go all the way around John Wilson. He's trying it, he's still overlapping with him, but he's going to be on the outside line for the Montreal hairpin. On board we go with Wilson, so Wells somewhere to our left. Wilson turns in. I think we just got a glimpse of the roof of Wells's car in the background there. And yes, we could just see the sun strip in the mirror. So Wilson holds on to the position. And Maxine Nichols goes on her way. It's towards the bottom end of the top 30, but acquitting herself quite well as here's brother Stuart. More places for him to try and make up. Get this nice view with the rear-looking camera, where the rear view mirror should be. So you can see both forwards and backwards out of Stuart Nichols' car. He's about to break into the top 10 here, I think, because that's Mark Bithry, number 58, up ahead of us. And Bithry holds 10th place at the moment. Nichols on form, should be the quicker man. But I'm sure Mark Bithry will be driving a very wide Mark II MR2. Through Williams they go, a bit further back you can see Simon Wallace and the number 40 car there going through, which is Nick Jones from Chorley up in Lancashire. Alex Knight, 33, finished 7th in race 1, has a lot of work to do. He's tucked in behind the number 80 car with David Asprey from Romford. Mansbridge involved as well. Davis meanwhile still leads the way, but out of the tow comes Matt Palmer here. He gets alongside Jim Davis, his car is ahead. He's got the inside line for Rich's corner. Does he make it through? I think he has done. Matt Palmer takes the lead of the race away from Jim Davis. Nicely executed, well planned move that from Matt Palmer, but Jim Davis is not going to give up. almost touching as they come through Montreal hairpin, now down towards the left-hander at Palmer. They're side by side once again, but Palmer's got the inside line at the corner that bears not his name but that of Jonathan Palmer, the circuit owner. There's great battles going on down the field. Stuart Nichols has broken into the top 10. Next target, number 5, hopefully painted on the back of his car, is Tim Heron as they come on to the back straights here. Not too much to choose between them in terms of top end speed, but Nichols just creeping ahead now as they head to the vehicle bridge at the end of this long Bentley straight. But no, it's going to be Heron. Is it that turns in first? I think Nichols has got it just around the outside at Brundle. Gets a bit crossed up. This is the view from Heron. Can he fight back on the exit of Nelson now? I think he's carried a bit more speed out of the corner. But Nichols positions the car well, and so Heron can't get back through. So Nichols now, I think, up to 9th. But Heron tries to get around the outside and loses it! At Coram, a very difficult corner to drive around the outside of anybody, let alone someone who's a regular podium finisher at last year's championship second place finisher, Stuart Nichols. So Tim Heron will lose several places because of that. Martin Fowler, you can see going through, Nick Jones just behind him as well, and so that's dropped him into about 14th position at the moment. Didn't lose as many places as he might have done. It was a bit of a gap back to the next car as Mark Bithry goes through with Sean Traynor just behind him. This is the battle for the last place in the top 10 then. And there is Jim Davis. Look how close he's almost touching there. He's going to try and get alongside as they come out of Agostini that time. Named after the motorcycle great, that corner, of course. Palmer is really in a motor race here, and that's not always been the case this season. He's not felt pressure like this in the previous 2 meetings at Donington and Brands Hatch, that's for sure. Jim Davis in particular and Stuart Nichols in the first race have really given him a workout this weekend at Snetterton, and I'm sure he will have enjoyed it. Matt, who uses the visualisation technique favoured by Michael Schumacher to help prepare for the races, as we watch the number 42 car of Andrew Franklin, who was unable to take the start of race number 1, go through. He's going to be towards the back of the field, I'm afraid, but at least he's got out for this second race of the weekend. And still the result is not yet decided here, is it? Because Jim Davis is piling the pressure on. There's really one more opportunity. That's Murray's, which isn't a fantastic overtaking opportunity, but I've seen it done before. Can he get past Matt Palmer? Maybe the drag to the checkered flag will be where it's at. He can use the toe from the car ahead of him. Past the corner markers there, braking point coming up. Left-hander at Murray's. It looked like it was quite a clean way through the corner there for Matt Palmer. Jim Davis is going to try and get alongside, but I just don't think it's going to be quite enough, is it? Up to the line they come. Checkered flag waves, and it's 6 out of 6 for a jubilant Matt Palmer here at Snetterton. So Palmer delighted with that success, but what a great race he had with Jim Davis on that occasion. There's 2 of them separated by just a couple of tenths of a second at the end of 6 laps of racing. Confirmation of those results then. The fastest lap and the lap record that time went to Matt Palmer as well, 2 minutes 19.73. Matt Wallace finished on the podium, but it was a relatively quiet race for him. Further back, Stuart Nichols fought his way through to 9th place in the end. You said that 6 out of 6 would sound better than 5 out of 5, and well, you've done just that.
Yeah, it's, I can't quite believe I managed to win those 2 races. When I saw this on the calendar for this year, I thought it's definitely a roadster circuit. So yeah, getting 2 wins and such hard-fought ones against Jim made it feel really special.
Yeah, and that was probably the most hard-fought one yet, I think.
Yeah, it was. I was actually behind him for a couple of laps and had to try and think my way past. I knew I could, if I got a good run off the final corner, or you could out-drag him into Riches, and yeah, luckily it worked.
But even when you got to head into Riches, he stayed side by side about the next 4 corners anyway.
Yeah, he's quite a difficult person to shake off. Yeah, I just about managed to keep him behind me though. Okay, and the next round of the championship, that's going to be at Castle Combe, isn't it? Yeah, the next round's at Castle Combe. I haven't been there for 3 or so years. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to get a test day in either, so should be quite interesting. It certainly should. Join us for coverage of that in 3 weeks' time. But for now, from all of us here at Snetterton, it's goodbye.